Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Downrow here with another Options and Play video update. Uh, so if you're on the VTF, you probably heard me talk about this in the past, but for those of you that maybe aren't on the VTF, which I do think is something you probably want to check out if you're not on the VTF, but if you're not on the VTF, you probably don't really hear me talk about day trading options as often. And it actually is something that I do pretty frequently. Um, and a lot of what my day trade style revolves around is like news, so breaking news intraday, and sometimes those moves end up being huge, sometimes they end up being small, but I mean I think what it comes down to is just the ability to like find something that's moving or breaking news headline, right, where it's still opportunity for either disseminating that news and you get a big swing, or maybe you get like a quick pop, right? So um, when the news hits, I find that it's all about speed. All right. So reacting, like reading or listening to the headline and reacting. And like the first thing I do um, when I buy options, right, is I try to get out some into like the initial volume surge. Okay. So Twitter, right? You can see clearly when the news hit. There's a story that the Biden administration said that they were going to continue to use Twitter as a source to disseminate news, right? So you can see obviously the news hit and the stock was like in the high 46.75, 46.80 range, right? So one of the first things I did when I looked when I bought some calls on it, right, is like I wanted to get out some orders to try to sell some options into the initial volume surge. So that's volume on the stock, but also volume on the options too, right? Because people see the stock moving, they see news, they step in and they buy options, right? So what I like to do is sell some into the initial volume surge on the options because that tends to be a volume implied volatility surge as well, right? You see volume pick up on the options, you see implied volatility pick up, right? So that's what I like to do. Then if I have some remaining, right, depending on what the move is, I try to hold. See, like once the news starts to get more widely disseminated, you get another push, right? Or is that it, right? And is it just kind of like, one and done and then it creeps back, right? So for Twitter, you can see that there really never was like another push. After the initial surge, it just rolled back down. All right. So then there's really two things, right? So once it starts to come back, there's two ways I approach it. Either I use a stop. So if it's worked in my favor, right, and it starts to come back, then what I do is I either use a stop, like a net debit, like break even area. Okay. So like the option wise, like a net debit break even, or if the stock retraces the entire way to where it was prior to the news hitting, right? So if Twitter had come all the way back down into like the 46.75, 46.80 area, then that would also be a stop for like that trade, right? So when the stock retraces the entire news-based move, that's also a sign for me that I want to get out. So sometimes the options are still up, sometimes they're down, but if it does retrace, then that's normally when I want to get out. All right. Um, if if there's like a quick spike and then it immediately reverses, right? Sometimes I'm not even able to get options out into the volume search, so that most of the time would probably lead to a hit. But I still try to follow the same rules, right? So if you get, so say for instance, Twitter just had this initial pop here and it didn't have the extension, right? And it just reversed. So instead of having this move, it just popped and then reversed, right? Then I would still follow the same rules, right? If it came back down, broke below, broke to where it was when the news first hit, then I'm going to want to get out, right? So in that case, I'd probably end up taking a loss on the trade because you didn't get the volume surge, you didn't get the price surge in the stock to sell some of the contracts into. But generally speaking, this is how I approach like these day trade, like newsy style trades, right? It comes down to speed, comes down to being smart and taking some into the volume and implied volatility surge, and then you can wait and see once it gets more disseminated. Is there like an extension, right? So like once it hits like the TV networks, once it starts to pop up in people's news feeds, and then do you get like the extension on top, and then sometimes it goes from a good trade to a great trade, right? So it's all about like managing the risk, taking money, right? It's like a swing trade in that sense, but just on a very, very, very short time frame. Okay. So if you like this video and you're looking for more information about day trading options or swing trading options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options and play. Hope you have a fantastic night. Stay well, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.